You know, I normally wear my jacket so people know I'm a physics professor, but I can take it off now. It's going to be hot up here for the whole island. Okay, so I do really want to thank Jane and Illinois Humanities Council for having me. It's always a great opportunity to come out and talk to people about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which in this case is the entire cosmos. And I want to thank all of you, certainly for taking the time to come and listen. As we go through tonight, hopefully we'll tell you some things that you may know about. Hopefully we'll tell you about some things that you may not know about, things that will stretch your brain in ways that maybe have not been stretched before. If at any moment during the evening you feel like you have a question, please shout it out or raise your hand, and please ask your questions as we go along. We will talk as much as we can, and if it's going to take too long, we'll move on and we'll talk a little bit more afterwards, which is what the evening is designed to do. Okay, we'll have some time for questions afterwards, but certainly at dinner, I'll be there and we can talk a lot more. Shane Larson, who's the president of the Adler Planetarium, is also here. Raise your hand, Michelle. So you can certainly bombard her with questions at dinner as well. Okay? But almost certainly what will happen is a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, after stewing on this for some amount of time, your subconscious or your active brain will come up with a new question. Something you hadn't thought of before, something that has been confusing you, and you will wake up at 2 in the morning and need to have that question answered. And when that happens, my email address is right here. You can send me an email, and I will do my best to help you and answer that question when it comes across my desk. Okay? If you're on Twitter, you can certainly follow me on Twitter, and you can tweet questions to me there. But questions about the cosmos very seldom fit into 140 characters. Yes,
sorry,
Jane.
I'm so sorry, Gertrude, that just reminded me. If you're doing all your social media that you're doing, thank you, and hashtag elective studies at IL Humanities.
For live tweeting right now, right? Yes. Okay. So tonight, what I want to talk to you about is something that we encounter very often as astronomers, certainly in our own personal relationship with the universe. It's something I encounter a lot when I talk to students and when I talk to the public about astronomy and about the cosmos. And that is this notion, this truth, that we encounter almost immediately when we start thinking about the universe, that the cosmos is enormous beyond belief. And when you think about the size and age of the cosmos, and you compare it to the size and times that we occupy in the universe, it's very humbling. And sometimes it makes you feel very small and very insignificant. And so what I want to talk today is how we've discovered all of that, how we come to grips with that, and some personal philosophy of us as scientists and astronomers about how we should deal with that matter, that we are very small and very, very big universe. Okay? So, as a way of storyline, let me just kind of tell you the things we're going to talk about. As I'm sure you know, we could have a meeting just like this every day for an entire year, and we still wouldn't have time to talk about all the things we could possibly talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about a little small portion of the infinite cosmos, and what I'm going to do is we're going to start with this idea that we feel small. How do we come to that idea? What makes us think that, and how does it impact us every day? We'll talk about how we see the cosmos, which is part of discovering that we are small and the cosmos is big, but it's also part of coming to grips with that idea at the same time. Okay? And after that, there will be lots of pretty pictures. Of course, is what astronomy is often full of. And I have favorites, and I try and put them in talks, so you'll see several of those. And then at the end, I want to come back to this little bit of personal philosophy about what it is like to think about you and your place in the entire cosmos. Okay? Okay. So let's go. So one of the great pleasures in my life is that I am a professional and an amateur astronomer. So during the day, I sit at my desk, I work on my computer, I think about black holes and neutron stars and gravity and the depth of stars, you know, everyday sorts of stuff. Okay? But at night, I do something that a lot of my professional colleagues don't do, which is I like to go out in my backyard or in a mountain meadow, and I like to stand out under the stars and see the universe up close and personal with my own eyes in a very one-on-one communal experience between me and the cosmos. I do it with my naked eye, I do it with my own telescope, but I spend a lot of time gathering the universe directly through my eyes, not through a computer or a book or a set of equations. I'm from Montana. This is near Montana. This is the Grand Tetons on the border of Wyoming and Idaho. And we call it Big Sky Country for a reason. Because when you're standing out in a meadow in the Rocky Mountains, you can't help but be overwhelmed by how enormous the sky feels. Dark above you, thousands of stars visible to the naked eye, and the slash of the Milky Way striking up out of the horizon, arching overhead, holding the sky up over your head. It's very personal, it's very moving, it's a very spiritual experience that is really hard to describe unless you've actually done it yourself. How many of you are city folks? Okay, how many of you have been out to the country and seen the Milky Way? Ah, okay, more of you than I normally encounter. Okay, that's good, right? Is it awesome? Right? You're looking at the entire galaxy that you and I were born in. And when you stand out there, it looks really, really, really big. But as we're going to see, the universe is far larger. There is a very famous quote from Carl Sagan. When I was wee, I was exposed to cosmos at just the right time. And it made me a lot of what I am today. And I do what I do because I was exposed to cosmos at the right time. And in the opening scenes of Cosmos, Carl Sagan said the following. He said, "The size and age of the cosmos are beyond ordinary human understanding." And we're going to talk about some of those numbers tonight, and they're going to be numbers that you and I don't have experience with every single day. Okay? Lost somewhere between immensity and eternity is our tiny planetary home, the Earth. And standing out in a meadow like this, you certainly see the Earth in front of you, places that you can walk to, places you can experience and touch up close and personal. But you can also see the universe beyond, and you just can't ever get there. The only thing you can do is stand here on the surface of the Earth and watch. Your mom told you life was not a spectator sport. Astronomy is a spectator sport. It's the only thing you can do. Okay, and this is what Carl's getting at. One of the reasons I love Carl so much, and those of you who have read Carl Sagan or listened to Carl Sagan know this, is that he resorts to language to really try and convey these deep emotional feelings that the cosmos inspires in all of us. Right? Immensity and eternity are not words that physicists normally use, but they're the only things we have to really convey what it is that we feel and experience every single time we stand out at the stars. Okay? Okay, so this is home. Now, NASA has taken many iconic pictures in the course of its history, but this is probably the most famous. There have been many versions of this taken over the years. The first was taken during the Apollo era by the astronauts on the way to the moon. This is called the blue marble because if you were to go dig in your toy box, you pull out a child's marble, it does not look unlike, I happen to pick a blue one, a marble. The surface of the Earth is largely dominated by the blue color that you see. That is the hydrosphere, the water of our planet, the thing that sets Earth apart from all the other worlds in the solar system, the thing that enables this world to support life as we know it. Beings like me and you, all the plants and animals that we know about, and the ones that we don't, that share this planet with us. The colors are the planets, clouds, the atmosphere, and the land that you and I live in. Again, not unlike the swirls of glass that you see on the surface of a child's marble. Now, I put this picture up. How many of you immediately said, "Whoa, I don't recognize that. What planet is that?" Anybody? None. Okay? Every single one of us recognized this when I looked at it. But there are only 24 people in the entire history of humankind who have ever seen the world this way with their own eyes. And those are the 24 astronauts who flew from the Earth to the moon. You cannot see the world like this with your own eyes unless you are 10 to 20,000 miles away from the Earth. And the only people who have ever been that far from home are the 24 Apollo astronauts who flew to the moon. 3 of them got to go twice. Unfortunately, all of them are men. But our civilization has grown to the point where this kind of picture has become communal knowledge. And the stories that go with it were experienced by one of our fellow human beings. They came back to Earth and shared it with all of us in such a way and to such fanfare that it has become a natural part of our culture. So much that there's not a single person in this room who didn't recognize it. And that's amazing. This is the legacy of all the things that our species has done for 40,000 generations. We have gotten to the point in our existence where anything that we discover can instantly be transmitted to every person in our civilization. Okay? Now, 24 astronauts are the only people who have seen this. So everything that we know about the universe, we've learned sitting right here on this blue marker. So let's talk about it. This is part of the winter sky. Okay, this is the constellation Orion. How many of you have seen Orion? Okay, so Orion is arguably one of the most recognizable constellations across cultures around the world. It is most notable for the three famous belt stars there in the middle. There are three stars hanging down below it, known as the Sword. The middle star in the Sword is not a star at all. It is a stellar nursery where new stars are being born into the cosmos. You can see that in small binoculars or a telescope. Striking out from the knee of Orion is a long, insinuous constellation that wraps around the sky, known as Eridanus, the Great Star River. It winds around the sky and ends up over here near a constellation called Fornax, the Furnace. And right here, I put a bullseye at that point in the sky where, before the story I'm about to tell you, we had seen absolutely nothing in the sky. It was an absolutely blank, empty part of the sky if you looked right there. Okay. But in the last decade, we took the most powerful telescope humans have ever built. What's that telescope? The Hubble Space Telescope. And we stared at that point on the sky, a point on the sky where we had never seen anything, for 23 days. Okay? The most powerful telescope straining with all its might to see if there's anything in that completely empty spot in the sky. Okay? And what do you think we saw? Yeah, a whole mess of crap, right? So, that spot on the sky that we stared at is no bigger than the eye of Roosevelt if you hold a dime out at arm's length. Okay? And the picture that Hubble took of that spot on the sky, it is no bigger than the eye on Roosevelt on a dime held at arm's length. It looks like this. Okay? This is the Hubble Extreme Deep Field. Every smudge of light, every fleck of stuff you see in this picture is a galaxy, just like the Milky Way, somewhere in the universe. Okay? If you look, you'll see things that look a little bit like the Milky Way. You'll see things that maybe look like the Milky Way, but most definitely don't look exactly like the Milky Way. But every little smudge of anything in this picture is another galaxy somewhere in the cosmos. If I count them all up, there are some 5,000 individual galaxies in this spot on the sky that I thought was empty before I stared at it for 23 days with the Hubble Space Telescope. Now you can imagine what physicists do is, well, let's suppose I covered the entire sky with spots the size of Roosevelt's eye held at arm's length. Okay? Every spot in the sky is just like every other spot in the sky, so there's no reason to expect that I would see anything different in any other part of the sky that I look at. Okay? And in fact, we've done that experiment just to be sure, just in case. Okay? And it turns out to be true. Every spot on the sky is covered in galaxies like this. So if I were to do that and I count all the galaxies that we can see, how many do you think there are? 500 billion galaxies in the visible universe. Okay, remember what we said about numbers beyond ordinary human understanding? Okay, most of us don't encounter the number billions on any given day. Okay, 500 billion galaxies in the universe. Okay? This is, this is the Hubble Extreme Deep Field. Okay? This is one of the first encounters that we have with how enormous the universe is. Okay? And so we need ways to talk about this because it's beyond the way we normally think. So astronomers have a technical term for how big the universe is. Does anyone know? Okay, the technical term we use is ginormous. Literally, this is what we say, okay? Because we're just like you, right? This is a huge number. There are so many galaxies, and every one of them is different. None of them look the same, and we have no idea how they formed, where they came from, how they're going to evolve, why they look the way they do. And there's more of them than me or any graduate student I hired. Okay? The universe is ginormous. Okay. Everyone good with that? Well, yeah, right? Have some more to drink. Okay. Now, let's talk about another kind of ginormous. Okay? So, hang out on the beach. How many of you hang out on the beach? Okay? So, the beach is a great place to hang out. And one of the things that you do, how many of you have kids? Did anyone? Okay, if you, yeah, you have my kids. Okay, yeah. And so, kids are like astronomy students. They just ask incessant amounts of questions, right? And so you hang out at the beach with Kate, and Kate wants to know, how many grains of sand are there on the beach? Okay, so I went down to Lake Michigan this morning, just for you guys. I filled up my previously filled Tic Tac container with sand from the shores of Lake Michigan. Okay? So, I tried to count them before I got here. I didn't have time to finish. Okay? But, suppose I wanted to know, how many grains of sand are there on all the beaches and all the deserts of the planet Earth? How many? A ginormous number. Well, as it turns out, it's a number we can estimate. This is something we do a lot as astronomers, right? We estimated the number of galaxies on the sky by counting some in a little spot and then multiplying. Okay? We can do the exact same thing with sand. I can go down to Lake Michigan and I can count a handful of sand, estimate how deep it is, how long the shorelines are, multiply by the total number on the Earth, and I can tell you how many grains of sand I think there are on planet Earth. Okay? So, there are about 10 billion grains of sand in all the beaches and all the deserts of planet Earth. Okay? Now, that's 10 billion, count to 10 billion, a billion times. Okay? It's a big number. It's ginormous. Okay? Now, keep that number in your head. Ellis has to slightly differently. Right, so, okay, so a billion, so it goes, so let's see, a billion comes after a million. Okay, so let's see, so 1,000 million is a trillion. A million billion is a quadrillion, so a billion billion is a quintillion. I think I did that right. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, quintillion, no problem. Okay. Let's keep that number in mind. Okay. So, this is one of my favorite places to go. This is in central Utah. This is a place called the Pando Forest. How many of you have heard of the Pando Forest? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. What do you know?
I've been to Utah.
Okay, so this is in central Utah. The Pando Forest is an aspen grove that is 80,000 years old. It's one of the oldest organisms on planet Earth. So it has seen 30 million starry nights like the one I took a picture of right here. So last summer I went and hung out in the Hubble Forest for about a week with my telescope and just stared at the skies and hugged trees that were 80,000 years old and viewed with nature for a little while. Okay? But when you're staring at a sky like that, you ask the question we just asked about the sand. How many stars are there in the cosmos? No? Yes. Okay, so how many galaxies are there?
500.
500 billion. Okay, and in a galaxy like the Milky Way, there's 4 to 500 billion stars. So if you multiply those two numbers together, you get the total number of stars in the universe. And there are something like 100,000 billion stars in the cosmos. There are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on the planet Earth. It's a lot. Okay? Now, you and I live in an age where we are finally cognizant of the fact, we've often speculated, but we know, that stars have planets around them, just like the sun does. So every one of these stars plausibly has a planet like Earth, which plausibly has its own beaches and its own deserts, which are full of sand. Which means there's a lot more sand in the universe than there is in stars. Okay. We'll come back to this in the end. Okay, but this is a number, a ginormous number, that again represents not the spatial vastness of the cosmos, but the structural vastness. The fact that it's composited of an infinite number of things. Not an infinite number, or a ginormous number. There's stars, with grains of sand. Okay? We'll come back to this at the end. Okay? Any questions about this? Okay. Now, we said that we viewed all of this from the surface of planet Earth. But the truth is, what most of us would love, those of us who are in my field, maybe most of you as well, is we would love to go out there and see it up close and personal. Just like we see in the movies, right? Just like on Stargate, just like on Star Trek, just like in Star Wars. I'd love to go out there and see all this stuff up close. Okay, so let me ask you the following question. Suppose I want to go to outer space. How far away is it? How hard is it to get there? Okay? How high do you have to go to earn your astronaut? Does anyone know that? It's not very high. It's only about 60 miles. Okay? If you can fly to an altitude of 60 miles, you'll get handed your astronaut. Okay? Now that's the altitude where if you're in an airplane, there's not enough air on planet Earth anymore to support ordinary flight. You have to do it in a rocket. Okay? It's called the von Karman law. After Theodore von Karman, who founded the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. Okay? So if you get above 60 miles, you get your astronaut points. So, bearing that in mind, Fred Hoyle, who was an astrophysicist in the mid-20th century in England, made the following observation. Space isn't remote at all. It's only an hour's drive away if your car could drive straight up. Okay. Now that really should blow your mind. You and I drive around, I never speed, I'm sure you don't. You and I drive around the world at 60 miles per hour all the time. And if my car was just a little bit more sophisticated and could go up instead of across, we could go to space. We could see all of this up close and personal. Okay? So let's use that idea. Let's use that idea to think about how big the universe is. Okay. This is my car of desire. There you go. It's because I watched Brownie Moment when I was too young. Okay. So suppose I had a Yugo. I know it's science fiction they could go 60 miles an hour, but just go with me. Okay? Okay. If I could go 60 miles an hour, and I made a list of places I would love to go, how long would it take me to get there? Okay? Earth orbit, the moon, Mars, Pluto, Saturn, Milky Way, Andromeda. Okay? So, Earth orbit at the altitude of the space station or space shuttles is about 350 kilometers. A little bit farther than you need to go to earn your astronaut wings. Okay? But it'll only take about 3.5 hours in your car. Okay? Road trip. Easy, right? Okay? If you could go in a jet, okay? Is everyone here flown in a jet? I was quite old by the time I finally did that. Okay, has anyone gone faster than you go in an average passenger jet? Anybody? No ex-Air Force jet pilots?
Oh, no.
Flown on the Concorde? Anybody? Okay. So this is the fastest that any of us in this room have ever flown. Okay? This is how fast we go every day. Okay? This is the fastest any of us have ever gone. So if you could go in a jet, it would only take you 22 minutes to get to work. How long did it take the space shuttle? About 10 minutes. Okay? So about twice as fast as you could go if you could get on Delta or United and go straight. Okay? Okay, the moon. How long did it take the astronauts to fly to the moon? 4 days. Okay? But at 375,000 kilometers, if I got in my car, it would take 5.5 months to drive there. Okay?
Are there any breaks in there?
I don't know, right? You should look at the person sitting next to you and wonder whether or not they can keep their side of the car clean for that long, right? Yeah, okay? Okay, 5.5 months. Only 16 days if you do it by a jet. Okay? Just think about Mars. Mars isn't that far away, right? It's the next planet to us. Okay? How long does it take to send a space probe like Curiosity, or Spirit, and Opportunity to Mars? Okay? About 6 months to a year, depending on where Mars is when we launch it in its orbit. Okay? But in your car, at 90 million kilometers away, it would take 106 years. Driving at the speeds that you and I encounter in our everyday lives, to just go to the closest place we can imagine in the universe that isn't home, it will take longer than a human lifetime. This is why seeing the universe is hard. Because we can't go fast enough to cover the enormous distances. The size of the universe is beyond the bounds of ordinary human understanding. Okay? In a jet, you can make it in the time it takes you to go from 2nd grade to graduate. I would have totally done that when I was in 2nd grade. Graduate on Mars, I'm in, right? Okay. Pluto, in less than 2 weeks, for the first time ever, a spacecraft will visit Pluto. I almost said the planet Pluto. It is the planet Pluto. Okay? If you've been watching, we're already getting pictures better than any pictures we've ever seen. I have a little exercise I do where I try and find all the pictures of what we used to think Pluto looked like, and I want to compare them to what Pluto really looks like, right? And it's already getting hard to find pictures of what we used to think Pluto might look like, because real pictures are showing up. How long did it take New Horizons to get from Earth to Pluto? 9 years. It's the fastest spacecraft ever built by humans, and we couldn't even make it go as fast as we wanted it to. We had to use the gravity of the Earth and Venus and Jupiter to slingshot it out, so it could get to Pluto in just 9 years. Okay? But in less than 2 weeks, it's going to be there. Okay? But it takes light 5.5 hours. Light is the fastest thing in the universe. And it takes 5.5 hours to get from Pluto to the Earth. And driving in your car, it would take almost 7,000 years. The total length of time of recorded human history. If the ancient Egyptians had set out in a U-boat for Pluto, they would just now be arriving. And wondering why we weren't, still worshiping sun gods and cats. Okay. Center of the Milky Way. The center of the Milky Way is 26,000 light years away. If you go out tonight, the constellation Sagittarius will be over the southern horizon, kind of 10-ish, 11-ish o'clock. That is the direction to the center of the galaxy. If you're where it's dark, you can see the Milky Way. The light that you see tonight, when you go stare at there, left the center of the galaxy before human beings had ever set foot on the continent of North America. Okay. Driving in your car, it would take 291 billion years to get to the center of the galaxy. That's longer than the age of the universe.
Is there a center to the galaxy?
Yes, there's absolutely. So the question is there a center to the galaxy? There's absolutely a center at the galaxy. We have been studying it through telescopes for a long, long time, and we think there is a 4 million solar mass black hole sitting at the exact center of the galaxy. Okay, it's called Sagittarius A star. Okay, and we see stars orbiting around it. Every now and then it gobbles some stuff up, and it's a very interesting thing. That's an entire another talk that we can have. Okay? Other questions? Okay. The Andromeda Galaxy. Okay? Still not very far into the universe. The closest galaxy to the Milky Way that's like the Milky Way is 2.5 million light years away. But driving in your car, it would take you 28 trillion years to get there. 1 trillion times the number of birthdays you've already had. The universe is ginormous. So, it begs an interesting question. When the universe is so large and everything is so impossibly far away, when the universe is full of so many interesting things that we would really love to see and study and be up close and personal with, how is it that we can know anything at all when we're confined to the surface of this small blue marble? Okay? So that's an interesting question. And the answer to that question is, we ask questions. Okay? That's all we can do. And in fact, it's all we do. We ask questions like, why are stars orbiting the center of the Milky Way? We come up with ideas to explain it. Maybe there's a black hole there. And then we ask other questions, like, if there is a black hole, what does it do when some gas gets close to it? What does it do when a star gets close to it? Can I see that happen? And I go and I watch. Okay? Astronomy is nothing more than asking questions. Okay? Now, I have a 9-year-old, a couple of us have kids, okay? But the most popular game with children is a game called 20 Questions. How many of you play 20 Questions? Right. Some of us more than others are raising multiple hands. Okay? So let's you and I play this game right now. Okay? There's something under that circle. Okay? Let's ask 5 questions. Okay? So go.
Is it human?
No.
Blue marble.
Pardon?
Blue marble?
It's not a blue marble.
Hot.
It is not hot.
What color is it?
I will show it to you, yes.
Are we asking yes or no?
Yes or no questions, yeah. But you know, with a 9-year-old, you're flexible with the questions, okay? You got 3 more. What are 3 more?
The picture of something alive.
It is not alive.
Is it on something found?
It is found on Earth.
Is it a number?
It is not a number. Okay, so there's 5 questions. Now, let's talk about those 5 questions for you. Using just 5 questions, you have eliminated 99.9999999, as many nines as you want, % of everything that exists in the universe. You know it's found on Earth. You know it's not alive. So, every animal, every plant, every bacteria you've ever heard of, excluded from this conversation. Every galaxy, neutron star, black hole, stars, dark energy, dark matter, all that excluded from the conversation. Okay. Using just 5 questions, you've eliminated most of the known universe and focused everything that you know down to a very small number of possible things hiding under this circle. And using 20 very well thought out and well considered questions, you would eventually arrive at, underneath this circle, is a little Lego me and a little Lego Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay? Yeah. You can do this with anything in the cosmos. I could have put anything under there. I could have put an ant under there. I could have put a chocolate bar under there. I could have put a euglena under there. Does anyone remember what a euglena is? Yes, one of those little things from microscopes in biology, right? Yeah, I could have put an artist's paintbrush. I could put a poem by E.E. Cummings. I could have put a yugo. Right? And with 20 well-placed questions, you would have figured it out. This is why we can understand the universe. Because our ability to reason through all of the myriad of possibilities of what the universe is filled with is phenomenal. It's remarkable that we can actually do this. And as far as we know, we're the only species in the universe, the only species in the universe, or the only species on planet Earth that we know of, that actually does this, that asks questions and comes up with the answers. Okay? And so we have a name for this game, right? We call it science. This is all we do as scientists, is we ask questions. And we don't limit ourselves to just 20, right? We're like those 9-year-olds, we ask a million questions. And those million questions teach us all the things that you've read about, all the things that you hear people like me tell you about, all those things that you've seen, that we know about the universe and the world around us. Okay? Okay. So, questions before we leap off then.
Have you met Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I have stood within close proximity. No, I haven't met him. Yes, I have met him. Yeah. I met him at the physics conference last year. Yes, in passing. Yeah. But I keep tweeting my Lego pictures of me and him together at him. Okay. What's this a picture of? Yeah, right? Here's Lake Michigan, here's Chicago, Indianapolis, St. Louis. All the light from all the myriad towns, the network of roads and connections between all the villages, the cities of our civilization. Okay? Just like the blue marble, I'm pretty sure none of you have been where we took this picture from. Where did we take this picture from? Space station, right? How many of you have been on the space station? Yeah, that's what I thought, okay? But you and I live in a civilization where information is instantaneously available to any one of us. We've all seen pictures like this, and we've seen them so often that we know instantly what they are, what they represent, to the level of understanding that we recognize what city it is, right? There's no label on that map that says this is Chicago. You happen to know that this is the shape of Lake Michigan, and that's where Chicago happens to sit on Lake Michigan. You recognize it because you've been exposed to it. Because our civilization shares all of that information instantaneously. But there was a time when the world wasn't this way. There was a time where we didn't all know what the world looked like. There was a time when none of us knew what the world looked like. And it's hard for us, as citizens of the 21st century, to remember what that was like. To be in a time and a place where we didn't have access to the total knowledge of our civilization. But I want to go through a few things with you here, talking about the universe, and I want you to try really hard to see the cosmos anew. To try and imagine what you're seeing if you weren't seeing what you've been taught about the universe in all the classes, and all the documentaries, and all the YouTube videos that you've watched. Okay? Okay, so let's go back to our mountain meadow. Let's stand on the earth and look at the sky. Okay, so here's a picture. We're not out there right now, we're in here. Okay, but let's imagine we're out here. Okay, and what I want to know is, what do we see? So tell me what you see in this picture. Okay, I see the moon. Okay, where's the moon? The moon's right here. Okay, how do you know that's the moon? Yeah, it's big, white, big up in the sky. It's crescent shaped. Why is it crescent shaped? The sun shine out, right? So this is the sunset, right? So the sun's over here somewhere, and it's shining on that side of the moon. That's what the crescent is. How come I can see this side of the moon? Oh, any of you seen that? Right? So that's called earth shine, right? So the sunlight hits the earth, bounces off the earth, and illuminates the dark side of the moon. What else can you see in this picture? These guys? What are those? They're planets, right? Okay, so this is Jupiter, this is Venus, and I'm pretty sure that's Mars. Okay? Anything else? What's this? That's a planet, Earth. Okay? But there was a time where we didn't know that this and these are the same thing. You've grown up always knowing that the Earth is one of the planets. But there was a time, not that long ago, in the context of all of human history, where we didn't know the Earth was one of these. Okay? So all of this is stuff, all those things you told me, are stuff that we've all been taught. These are moons, these are planets, the Earth is a planet. Okay. But that's all information that has been hard-fought and hard-won by 40,000 generations of our ancestors who came before us. But you and I take it for granted because I have a magic device in my pocket that told me that was the moon when I held it up to the sky and it showed me that was the moon right there behind my mouth. So let's talk about the moon. Okay? Tell me what you know about the moon. It affects the tides of the Earth, yeah. It's what creates the tides of the Earth. What else? It's smaller than the Earth. It orbits the Earth. Ah, yeah. So, yeah, the formation, the current ideas about formation is it may have been part of the Earth. Something collided and took part of the Earth with it and became the moon. Yeah. What else? What's the surface like? There's lower gravity. There's craters. Okay?
Made of cheese.
It's possibly made of cheese, but I know 12 people who tell me it's not. Okay? So if you come visit us at the Adler, when you walk into the Rainbow Lobby, one of the very first things you see is this model of the moon. It's about 5 or 6 feet across. Okay? And it shows a lot of the things that you and I were just saying. It's covered in craters, has some very interesting topography. This globe only has the front side. It was made in the 1950s. Why did we not make the backside? Because we had never been to the backside of the moon and had no freaking idea what it looked like. Right? Okay, so this half of the globe shows the things that we know about the moon. Namely, that it's covered in mountains and craters and things. Okay? Well, let me ask you the following question. If I had that globe right here in the room with us, 6 foot across right here, how far away from it would I have to stand to make it look just like it looks in the sky? All the way back there, okay? So if I want the moon, this model of the moon, to look just like it looks in the sky, I would have to put it 140 feet away. If we overran the Grateful Dead concert and we stood at the center line of Soldier Field, we'd have to put it down in the end zone. Okay? So if I do that, if I put it 140 feet away, this is what it looks like. This is a picture of the moon I took just last night. Okay? And can you see any mountains on it? Can you see any craters on it? Does it look like a ball? Does it look like a sphere? Yeah, right? It's hard to tell, right? Okay, so how big is this in the sky? Yeah, that big? It's the size of that dime held up in Art's name. Okay? If you go out tonight and hold up a dime, it's the same size as the moon. Okay? Now, for all of recorded history, this is what the moon looked like to most of the humans who've ever lived. But somewhere along the line, we discovered it was covered in mountains and craters. When did we discover that? Huh? Telescopes, right? 400 years ago, an Italian astronomer named Galileo took a new invention called the telescope, and he pointed it at the sky. And in 1609, the very first thing he looked at was the moon, and these are his sketches of the moon. This is the first time in human history anyone had ever seen the moon look the way you and I know it looks. That it has craters, that it has mountains, that it has structure and shape to it. The moon was the first world, other than the Earth, that we had ever discovered. And we did it because we built a piece of technology, a telescope, that gave us the ability to see better than we could see with the tools that our body gave us. Okay? Just like the Hubble Space Telescope, right? We stared at that spot in the sky, which I couldn't see, but the technology allowed us to see more. Same thing happened here.
You talking about the backside of the moon? Is the same side of the moon face the Earth?
Yeah, so the question is, does the same side of the moon face the Earth? It does. Okay, so as physicists, what we try to say is we talk about the near side and the far side, rather than the light side and the dark side, despite what Pink Floyd says. Okay, and the moon turns on its axis just like the Earth does. So there's a lunar day, but it takes exactly the same amount of time as it takes to go around the Earth. So we only see one side, and that's a consequence of the fact that the moon has spent 1 billion years raising tides on the Earth. It has sucked the spin out of the moon, so that it always faces the Earth. Okay. So you only ever see one side. And I have some cool stories I can tell you at dinner. Someone asked me about how we name things on the far side of the moon. I'll tell you a story. Okay. 1609, Galileo looked at this and many other things, and he wrote a very famous book called Sidereus Nuncius, which he published in 1610. That is Latin for the starry messenger. And here's what he wrote about the moon. He wrote, "The moon certainly does not possess a smooth and polished surface." That's what they thought, just based on what they see. Right? If you and I had never been taught here for craters, that's what we would do. But the moon is smooth and polished. Okay? But one that is rough and uneven, and just like the face of the Earth, is everywhere full of vast protuberances deep chasms, and sinuosities. So this is the first time that we had ever known there was a world other than the Earth. And immediately you see Galileo doing what every single one of us does when we think about other worlds. We describe them in terms of the way we think about the things we see on Earth. The topography we see, the kinds of mountains and canyons and geology that we see here on Earth, Galileo is transferring that knowledge to the moon. And of course, we've been to the moon at this point, and we know that that's true. Okay. This was the first time. Okay? Let's talk about Jupiter. How many of you saw Jupiter and Venus in the sky over the last couple nights? Okay, a few of you. Right now, Venus and Jupiter just happen to be in their orbits in the right places that when you look at them from the Earth, they're very close together in the sky. They're as close together in the sky as they're going to look for the past 30 years or so. Okay? So this is a picture from last night. This is Jupiter right here, and this is Venus. Okay? How big is Jupiter in the sky? You guys know what's coming, right? Okay, so if you hold your diamond, it's about the size of Roosevelt's eye. Okay? So Jupiter would cover, just barely, the whole Hubble deep field if you put it on the sky. Okay? Now, tell me something about Jupiter. What do you know about Jupiter? Oh no, these are Galileo's pictures. Okay? So these are Galileo's pictures of all the planets. Okay? This is Venus. Okay? Remarkably, Venus is not the same size all the time. How come?
Further away.
Yeah, sometimes it's close and sometimes it's farther away. Okay? So this was an indicator, finally, that things in the universe change their distance from the Earth. We didn't know that before we had a telescope. It also goes through phases, an indicator that it's going around the sun, and that changing the view that it presents to the sun changes the phases that it shows to the telescope, the same way the moon does. Okay? This is Galileo's picture of Saturn. His telescope was not the greatest telescope in the world, so he could tell there was something weird about Saturn, but he couldn't tell that it had rings. Does anyone know what he said about Saturn? Saturn has ears. So you understand this picture a little bit better, right? It looks like I draw ears. I try to draw ears. This is Mars, and this is Jupiter. It was quite clear that Mars and Jupiter were different sizes. At this time, we knew that Jupiter was farther away from the Earth than Mars was. So this is an indicator that intrinsically Jupiter is bigger than Mars. All because of this technology showed it. Now you'll notice there's no surface detail on any of these. Okay? His telescope wasn't good enough to show it to you. But we know now a lot about what the planets are. Okay, so the planets are not stars, they're other worlds. So let's talk about Jupiter. Tell me what you know about Jupiter. It has a lot of storms. We'll talk about that in a minute. What else? Huh? Yeah, the Great Red Spot. Okay, we'll talk about that. What else?
Is it the biggest one?
It's the biggest planet in the solar system. And if you look at those pictures, you can't tell from the pictures, but once you start talking about distances, which the telescope lets us do, you will discover that very quickly. What else do you know about it? It has its own moons, okay?
It has a gaseous surface.
And it has a gaseous surface, right? Okay, so all of those things are things that we know about Jupiter. And Galileo was the first person to look at Jupiter. And it is clearly not a star, but it becomes very obvious when you stare at it through a telescope that it's not like the Earth either. It's not like the moon. It's apparently its own unique world in the cosmos. You can see, if you look really closely right there, the Great Red Spot, which we were just talking about. And there are 4 easy-to-see bright moons. Those are called the Galilean moons. Galileo was the first person to know that planets besides the Earth had moons. And the ones around Jupiter were the very first ones that he discovered. Okay? So they're Io, Callisto, Ganymede, and Europa. Okay. This is roughly what Jupiter would look like if you go out in your backyard with an average telescope, 4-inch telescope, pair of binoculars, put them on a tripod. This is what Jupiter will look like. The telescopes you have access to, just going down to Walmart, are infinitely better than the ones Galileo. But he discovered the universe. He transformed the way we think about the universe. And for $20, you can do better than he. Okay? Keep that in mind. So, let me show you some things about Jupiter. Okay? Now, this is what Jupiter looks like through a telescope. But all of us have seen much better pictures of Jupiter. How do we get much better pictures of Jupiter than we get through a telescope? Well, Hubble does give us some good pictures, but the best pictures of Jupiter, how do we get those?
Spacecraft.
The internet, right? Right. I pull the magic device out of my pocket and it shows me awesome pictures of Jupiter. Okay, but I heard it back here, someone said it.
Spacecraft.
Yeah, we sent spacecraft to the outer planets. One of the most magnificent things that we are capable of, to my mind, is that we can build robotic emissaries that are capable of going places in the universe that you and I can never go. This is the Voyager spacecraft. We sent 2 of them in the mid-1970s to the outer solar system. They went to Jupiter, they went to Saturn, they went to Uranus and Neptune. Okay? They are the only spacecraft ever to visit Uranus and Neptune. They are one of only 6 spacecraft that ever visit Jupiter and Saturn. But we are capable of building instruments that can cross the gulf of space, that can sleep for years at a time, and then wake up and take amazing pictures, and sniff the air, and measure the gravity, and transfer that information faithfully back to Earth with such clarity and authenticity that I can put it on Wikipedia and all of us believe it and absorb it into our culture. We take all the things that these spacecraft have discovered as truth because we are capable of building robotic emissaries that are that trustworthy. Okay? So, let me show you my absolute favorite picture that was ever taken by the Voyager spacecraft. Okay? This one. Right? There are many awesome pictures that Voyager took, but this is my favorite. And the reason this is my favorite is because if you had been living in a cave for all the 28 years of your life, and I walked in one day and threw this down in front of you, you would not know that it's a picture of Jupiter. You might assume that it's a painting created by an artist, just like some of you, sitting in a room just like this one. This is nature painting using planets as its canvas. And it's as detailed and evocative as any painting that I've ever seen. A lot of times, one of the things that we encounter as astronomers is, why do I spend money doing this? Okay? And there's a lot of different answers to that. I'm happy to talk with anyone about all of the answers. But one of the answers is we don't know what storms do on Earth without the influence of all these other things going on Earth. Without the influence of humans, without the influence of fossil fuel burning, without the changing climate being driven by other factors, without kangaroos messing things up, who knows? Okay? But if I go study storms on Mars or storms on Jupiter, those planets are evolving on their own. And we learn a lot by watching the weather on Mars or the weather on Jupiter and trying to use that to inform our understanding about what's going on. So it's an important part of this that we don't often talk about. It's about life on Earth. That's why we look at it. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Let me show you what is arguably the most famous picture of Voyager took. What's that picture of? Yeah, right there. Does everyone see that? That's the Earth. Right after Voyager passed Neptune, we commanded the cameras to look back towards the inner solar system, and in a sequence of about 60 or 70 pictures, Voyager took a family portrait. It took a picture of every planet in the solar system together. And this is the frame that contains the Earth. A small, pale blue dot of light suspended in a sunbeam flaring off of one of Voyager's cameras. More than any other picture, this captures how small and tiny the Earth is. We're not even outside of the solar system. We're not even out on the scale of 500 billion galaxies. We're still close to home. And already, the Earth is nothing bigger than a small fleck of light that if you weren't looking for it, you may not notice. Every person you know everything you've ever seen and experienced, every person you've ever heard of, every spacecraft that's ever been built and carried humans into the sky is inside that dot.
What's that, you said that's the sun beam?
Yeah, this is a lens flare from the sun. The sun's over here,
Yeah.
okay? And when you take a picture of the sun, if you haven't ever done that with your phone, you can try tomorrow, right? You get the flares through the glass. This is one of those.
What's the
It
other
just so
one?
happened the Earth is right
Is that
there.
another
This is another one. If you look at this online and not projected, they're all kind of different colors.
Yeah.
It's that kind of chromatic aberration that you see. It's just optics. Okay? Okay. So, this is the Earth. It's tiny, right? And what I think is most remarkable about this image is that if I look at that, there's absolutely nothing in that flood of light that tells you Earth is anything special or different compared to any of the other planets in the solar system. Nothing to indicate there's life here, nothing to indicate the being Earth, nothing to indicate that the origin of this spacecraft that took this picture is from that small flood of light. These are the kinds of things that make us feel small, right? It kind of takes all our concerns, all the things we worry about, all the things that we think about, and reduces them down to we're just tiny in a very enormous universe. But Voyager carries one other thing, okay? Something that totally contradicts what I just told you. Something that screams, yeah, we know we're small, but we have an unbeatable sense of optimism about our place in the universe. And that thing that Voyager carries is called the Golden Record. It's a phonograph record bolted onto the side of each of the Voyager spacecraft. On one side are instructions and information about the record. There is a phonograph needle that's included with instructions for how to use it to read the data off of the record. There is a picture of a hydrogen atom with some information that tells you how to interpret mathematically all the information in this picture. There is information about what the signal will look like if you follow the instructions and play the record out, how to reconstruct the data, and what the very first piece of information on the record is. A picture of a perfect circle. Down in the lower corner is a map to show you how to find the individuals who made this record should you happen to stumble across it in your voyages through the Milky Way galaxy. On the other side is all of the data for the record, which includes greetings, recordings, in 55 languages from the planet Earth. It includes 115 images of life on Earth, pictures of people, pictures of animals, pictures of our architecture, pictures of natural things like the Grand Canyon, pictures of what life on Earth was like at the moment Voyager was set sail into the cosmos. There's also included 90 minutes of music from Earth. There's work by Mozart and Bach and Beethoven. Johnny B. Good's on it. There's a Navajo night chant. There's a recording of a Peruvian wedding chant. Okay? 90 minutes of the Earth's greatest hits. And engraved on the outside edge of the record right here, which you probably can't see in this picture, is a single sentence in English, engraved in hand, that says, to the makers of music, all worlds, all times. Okay. This is not the thing that someone who is hiding away, feeling that they're small and insignificant, makes and throws out into the cosmos. Voyager will outlast every person who ever imagined it. Voyager will outlast every person in this room. It will outlast every person who selected the pictures, the music. It will outlast the civilization that this record records and what am I saying? Outlast the civilization that recorded all the information on this record. It will pass nearby a distant star in about 41,000 years. Okay? Our civilization, recorded history, is about what, 5,000 to 6,000 years old? Humans crossed over onto North America 12,000 years ago. 4 times the length of anything that we know about humans. Voyager is still going to be around. Voyager is coasting right? So we use the gravity of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune to give it enough speed that it is escaping from the solar system.
And it'll just keep going.
It will just keep going until gravity from something attracts it. Okay? Forever.
How far till it can't see?
Now, this record's on Voyager because someone thought maybe someday someone will stumble across this thing. And maybe there will be some form of intelligence. And they'll wonder, what is this hunk of space junk? And if they can decode the record, they might learn something about those of us who sent this spacecraft out to the universe. You want me to tell you guys my secret fantasy?
Yeah.
I think that someday our distant descendants are going to find Voyager. And they're not going to have any freaking clue it came from us. Right? Just like if I go digging in the sands in the Middle East, I'm like, here's a bottle I found. Oh, here's a scrap of parchment I found. The people who wrote that didn't leave any record that they wrote that parchment. The people who buried that bottle or lost that bottle didn't leave any record that they found that bottle. But it was found thousands of generations later by us. And so someday it may be the case that our descendants find Voyager, and having lost the YouTube video of this talk, won't know. If you're interested, there's a very nice interactive site called goldenrecord.org where you can go through and see all the images and listen to the music of Voyager, and of course NASA has a record.
There's also, what's her name again?
Andrea?
Brian. She had fire for biorhythms recorded.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So her heartbeat and all her biorhythms are on the record.
Yeah, and they thought maybe one day someone could trace that.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's on the record. Okay. So, yes,
Do
sir.
you know how far Voyager can go before it can stop receiving information from it?
So Voyager is currently still operating. It's still sending signals to us. It is currently 120 astronomical units from the sun. So the Earth is one astronomical unit, so it's 120 times farther from the sun than the Earth is. And that is basically the edge of the known solar system. It has just crossed into that part of the galaxy where it's beginning to see not the solar wind, not the particles that our sun is throwing off, but the stellar wind from other stars in the galaxy. So it's finally out beyond what we think of as the boundaries of our solar system. It will continue to transmit for about another 10 years. And at that time, its nuclear power plant will be extended, and it will fall silent for the last time. Okay. So, let's finish up by going back to this picture. Okay? So remember we said there were about 10 billion grains of sand on all the beaches of planet Earth. And there are 100,000 billion stars in all the cosmos. Big, gigantic numbers. But let me put those numbers in a little bit different perspective. Okay? What's this a picture of? Yeah, so these are water drops on my window in my apartment, looking out towards Northwestern. Okay, so if you've never done this, you should certainly do it. If you look through water drops, they act like little magnifying glasses. And this is Northwestern University upside down through the window of my apartment. Okay? So in all these drops of water here on this picture, okay, there are roughly the same number of water atoms as there are stars in all the cosmos. In just 10 drops of water, you have as many atoms as there are stars in the entire universe. And I'll remind you that every one of you is 50 or 60% made up of water, which means there are 100,000 times more molecules of water in your body than there are stars in the universe. And every molecule of water is made up of hydrogen, which is what the stars are made of. And the other piece of the water is oxygen, which was made by stars burning hydrogen, and at the ends of their lives exploding and throwing that stuff out into the cosmos until eventually it becomes you. So in a very real way, you are atoms that the universe has assembled to look out into the cosmos and ask the question, what's the deal with all those other atoms? You are the cosmos made manifest. You're a way that the cosmos is trying to organize itself to ask those questions that we as humans have always asked. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Why are we here? And what's our role to play in this enormous universe that's all around us? We're no different than all those galaxies and all those stars and all those grains of sand. We're all made of the same star system. Now, the internet's a wonderful place, right? And everything you see on the internet is absolutely true. And my most famous quote is that the difficulty with quotes on the internet is you don't know who said it. Abraham Lincoln said that. Okay? But there is a quote that I like very much that is attributed to being an ancient Serbian proverb. And is anyone here Serbian? No? Okay. Well, it may or may not be true, but I like it, so I tell people it all the time. Okay? And what it says is be humble because you're made of the earth. It's okay to feel small. We are small. And we should be humble because we are. We don't know everything about the universe there is today. But be noble because you are made of the stars. You and I are the only species we know capable of asking the questions we ask, of figuring things out, and asking new questions. It's very empowering. It's a very important part of our being, and something that I think we tend to forget. We get caught up in our concerns and our problems every single day. But just like artists, just like our friends in the clergy, all of us are true seekers, and we're just trying to understand what our place in the universe really is. Okay? So I always like to see each of you with some more things to look at and more things to read. There's a couple videos on YouTube. This is called Powers of 10. How many of you have seen this? Okay, a few of you. Okay, good. This is a very famous video made by the Eames in the 1970s. It's very relevant to the city of Chicago because it starts in a picnic off of Lakeshore Drive, and then it expands to the size of the universe and collapses to the size of the atoms. This is one of my very favorite music videos. This is by an artist in Wisconsin named Peter Mulvey. He's a folk Americana artist, and he has a great song called Vlad the Astrophysicist, and it will blow your mind if you listen to it for a little while. Okay. This is the book where I discovered the Pandal Force. This is what made me visit the Pandal Force. This is a book by Rachel Sussman called The Oldest Living Things in the World, where she ran around the world and took pictures of the oldest living organisms that she could find. And what's great about that book is most of the things there live far longer than you and I will ever live. And so it's a very cool book. And of course, Carl Sagan, who had a very strong impact on my life, wrote a very famous book, which the PBS series was originally based on, called Cosmos, and it is great reading and still a great reading for those of you who have the. So I'll leave you with a quote from Cosmos. Chapter 8 of that book is a chapter called The Backbone of Night. It's about seeing the night sky and seeing the Milky Way overhead. And in that chapter, Carl says that the desire to be connected to the cosmos reflects a profound way of living. That we are connected, and not in trivial ways, but in the deepest ways that we can imagine. Okay? So, that's all I'm going to say. I say thank you so much for your attention.